Welcome everyone to today's webinar, Mastering the Virtual Classroom, Best Practices for Online Teaching. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Paul Cotter. I'm the Vice President of Marketing here at Stukent, and I get to be your host today. So before we dive in, I want you to get familiar with the platform and with the screen. To your right is the chat function. Go ahead and use it. We want you to use that today. Start out right now. Tell us what your name is and where you're teaching, where you're from. Throughout today's event, feel free to leave comments or questions at any time, and we will save those for the end if we have time to answer some of those. So Ellen from Tampa, welcome. And these always go through really fast, so sorry, sometimes they skip before I can get to them. Andrew from Boston, Elena from Michigan, Carolyn from Starkville, Missouri, Alante from Ohio. Welcome everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're so happy to have you with us. Now, for those of you who are new to Stukent, our goal is to help bridge the gap between academia and industry by providing course materials and Simternships in accounting, business, communications, and marketing courses. Now, these bundles that we offer, they're a comprehensive package that feature hundreds of instructor and student resources. And as a special gift to everyone watching and attending today, we want to offer you free instructor access to any of our courseware or simulations. So everything is designed to be seamlessly integrated into your course. So go ahead and click the link below, and you can get access, free instructor access to anything that we offer. Now, let's get to the presentation. I want to welcome our guests, our panelists, to the stage today. We have a great lineup, and I'm excited to introduce them. So go ahead and come on. I'll just say their names as they come on. We have Dr. Heather E. Phillip. She's an associate clinical professor of marketing at the University of Texas, Arlington. We have Dr. Lois Jones, an assistant professor in the Department of Communication at Lipscomb University. We have Stephanie Longo, an associate professor of corporate communication at Penn State Scranton. And we have Raymond Walker. So thank you everyone for joining us. What I want to do is just give everyone a chance to introduce themselves quickly, and then we'll move into the questions. So Lois, you're first on my screen. Why don't we start with you?
Happy to. I am Dr. Lois Jones. I teach public relations, advertising, among other classes, as you all, anybody who's an educator knows, we multitask. At Lipscomb University, I've been there, I'm in my third year there. Love what I do, love working with students. I've also taught online through a all online offering, and am thrilled to be here today.
Welcome. Thanks, Lois. Stephanie, let's move to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Stephanie Longo. I'm an assistant professor of corporate communication at Penn State Scranton, and I have been teaching online for a good 10 years. I've started at Penn State last year, and I've done some hybrid classes as well. I'm just very excited to be here today. Stukent is an awesome platform, and I'm just very thankful that they thought that I had something great to contribute to this conversation. I look forward to hearing what everyone else has to say too.
Great. We're excited to hear from you today. Heather, how about you?
Hi, everyone. I am from the University of Texas at Arlington. I'm not from Texas. I'm from New Jersey. I teach online courses, digital marketing and consumer behavior primarily. And I do use the Stukent materials. They're pretty good. So I also studied in New Zealand. So I've been around in different places, and I'm really excited to share some feedback and learn from everybody else in the panel about online instruction.
Awesome. Thank you, Heather. Raymond, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey guys, my name is Ramon, and I'm elated to meet everyone on this call today. I stem from Oklahoma. I've taught for over 10 years at multiple technical colleges, as well as I have over 10 years of facilitating digital and online training for corporate and nonprofit organizations, which I absolutely love. Currently, I've taught classes around AI, leadership development, career development, a wide range of things, but that has really spanned my entire career. So I'm excited to learn as well and to also engage with you all.
Great, thank you. And I apologize for your name. I'll get that right. So
No
for
worries.
today's event, we have a series of questions prepared. And so I'll be asking them, and we're just going to start off and head into it right now. So the first set of questions, they hinge around teaching strategy. And so I want to ask Heather, how do you design your virtual class sessions to keep students and audiences engaged and present?
Right. So as I said, I teach asynchronous online, not synchronous. So it is much more challenging to make sure that students are engaged and they know where to show up and what to do. So I really kind of try to follow a GPS little strategy where I think about where are my students right now and where do I need them to go? And so it's really being an ultimate tour guide in this setup. So I use Canvas at our school. That's our LMS. And one of the things is to really make sure that they see, the whole big picture and overview, and where do they need to go step by step, day by day, week by week. And so some things that if you have your LMS set up for asynchronous is to make sure that they, have to view an assignment or a page before they get to the next page and then go into the next page. So you can set up prerequisites to make sure, okay, they viewed this and then they viewed this. Because in the past I would get, oh, I didn't even know that you had a lecture video here, or I didn't know that this instruction was available. So kind of forcing them into a little box where they have to go down a certain path is really your first setup point, where you make sure that they know, I got to turn right here, I got to turn left here. As soon as they're in these pages and in these lecture places, then I'm really thinking about how do I keep them engaged. And with that, I have a lot of design tools that we have. So for example, we have Design Plus from City Labs. I don't know if any of you have that at your school, but it's really great tool to make everything designed well. You can put things into accordions, and it makes HTML editing for newbies and people who aren't really good at that much simpler. Okay, so I have that as my setup for the design. And then there's also something called H5P, and that's the HTML5. And if you have access to this, you can create drag and drop HTML activities. You can have game maps. You can have fill in the blanks and quizzes, and this will be embedded on the page directly. So what I would have is I would have maybe a lecture video, and then right below that lecture video directly, okay, here's a quiz to make sure that you understand that concept. And it would just be not a full quiz, but like 2 questions so that they're staying engaged. And that is the alternative from other classes I've taken or seen where, you have all of your lectures and then maybe all the way at the end of the module is a big long quiz where it's like, oh, I already forgot everything that I just talked about. So I'm no longer engaged. It's no longer kind of present in my mind. And so I like that embedded on the page where you're like doing one little small chunk of information and okay, let's test that. And then another small chunk of information and let's test that. And I kind of think of almost like Bloom's taxonomy, like the verbs. So you kind of just starting really simple, like here, let's just start learning about this and remembering this and just test your understanding of that. And then as we go deeper into the page, I can get more interactions with them. I've, for example, used Microsoft Forms where they can do little interactions with each other. You can embed that as well with the HTML into the HTML. And you can say like, you could do an opinion-based one or an actual knowledge-based one and ask students, what do you think? And then you can show the results of what the class thought. So it'll be instant. So even though they're not all there synchronously, they can see what did everybody else think. You can see what the feedback was. And so I think that that kind of small chunks of here's information and here's something that you can engage with really makes it more engaging for the students so they can have that checkpoint. And then finally, at the end of each module, my final thing that I do to make sure that they're engaged is, instead of they submitting an assignment into a black box where they just submit it to me, you make sure that there's learner to learner interactions. So I have them upload like a Google Slides presentation PowerPoint into a discussion board, and they can give each other feedback and do it more like a showcase of whatever my assignment was. So they create something, not just a discussion board where it's like very informal, like, hey, I think this. They actually create something that they would want to share and showcase, and it's on a public discussion board, and then they can get feedback with each other that way.
Wow, that's great, Heather. That's a
lot of, I know, I'm just,
yeah, I love that right from the get-go. Who else has something that they'd like to add to this?
I'll go. The one of the things that I add to a course is to make sure that I have even if it's predominantly asynchronous, I put in a weekly live chat, so to speak, where they have the opportunity to ask any questions. We can review the material that's coming up in the following week and make sure that there's clarity on the assignments and what's to come.
Great.
Yeah.
I can also chime in a little bit on this one. So what I use in my classes, I'd like to do a lot of interactive content because my students often are spread out throughout the Commonwealth campus system at Penn State. So I might be based in Scranton, but have a student completely on the other end of the state. And these are students who just don't know each other. So I try to do as much learner to learner interaction as possible, just as what was said before. I do things like Zoom polls and quizzes because a lot of our sessions are based off of Zoom. I do word clouds via QR codes just to see what people are getting out of the lessons. I try whiteboards, even breakout rooms to varying levels of success. Some students like those, some students don't like them. But one thing that I use, and I swear by it at this point, it's Yellow Dig software. I know not a lot of people are familiar with it, but I use it and love it. It's basically a social media platform. One of my students called it a blog that's just for the class. I use it in my introduction to cinema class, and students use that to discuss the films, what they liked, what they didn't like, and they really start interacting with each other. And I've noticed that a few of the conversations have gone offline. Some people are connecting with each other in other places just so they could continue discussing these films. They've even made themselves like a little film club where they watch other films that aren't in the class, just based off of some of the conversations that have taken place in Yellow Dig. So that's one item that I absolutely swear by. I've used that continuously over the past few semesters, and it's a platform that keeps improving. You can integrate it directly into the Canvas LMS, and it just takes discussion boards out of the whole, I hate to say a snooze fest of a discussion board, but it's usually, okay, by Wednesday you have to have your initial post, and then by Sunday, 3 responses. This lets them talk about the topics in a way that they feel more comfortable. They're guiding the conversation instead of us as instructors. And the students have all across the board said they've gotten a lot out of the classes because of that.
Yeah, I would say in addition to that, Stephanie, you talked about the board discussion boards. A tool that's really helpful for that is called Video Ask. It allows the student to choose what form of content they want to share when it comes to dialogue. And so you can do an audio version where you can record your responses. You can do a video response, or you can do a text response. But it's a really great way to engage with students throughout your platform you're learning. I think that's helpful as well, too, to make it multimodal.
Well, thank you. That was some great answers for this. Continuing with this, I want to ask, what has been the most impactful change that you've made to your online teaching approach in the last year? And I'll just let whoever wants to go first.
I can start with that. I would say for me is remembering that I am only the guide and I am guiding my students. I think sometimes as online instructors, we want to ensure that we have as much content as possible. But I realize online is a different medium, which requires different tools. And so for me, one of the things I do is I try to keep my lecture time no more than 15 minutes to 20 minutes, if even that long. And I really try to create more engaging opportunities with the students. Hey, you on your computer, you have so many ways that you can learn and interact with the content. Why not use that content while you are on the cloud, while you're on the platform itself? And so I use so many tools, so many ways of researching with AI, and all of those things can be integrated within their learning instruction, because we have the entire world at our disposal for the tools you can use while you're engaging. I think the more we reduce our time in just teaching, and the more we engage the students and really interacting with the content and really digesting the content, we're just curating the content for them to digest, and they're engaging and learning, and we're just helping to filter and guide that.
I'll jump in. Another thing that I updated in the last year was I used to have a survey at the end of the class where I would say, what worked well for you and what didn't, what do you want to see next time? And it's kind of too late to ask at the end of the semester. So instead, I've made little mini surveys at the end of every month, maybe, where I'm saying, okay, here is your space for you to jump in and give me feedback, because I know they're too scared to email me and maybe meet me in office hours. And so this is very open-ended, like, you know, what is something that you wanted to see or see changed? What is something you struggled with? It's very open-ended, even just like, did you notice any typos or broken links? Because maybe they're too scared to send me an email on that and they want to see it updated. And I had a lot of positive feedback from students saying, oh, thank you so much for giving us a space to share our feedback. Like, I was hoping we could do more of this, and I was hoping we could do more of that. And so I'm able to update it for them. Or sometimes they ask for something and I already have it built in and they just didn't realize where to go and find it. So I get to already just reply to them, hey, that's a great suggestion. You can find it in this page over here. And they just feel like more connected to me that way, in a very simple, because it's just a form. They don't have to email me. They don't have to find me. They just submit a form, and it's at the end of every single little tiny module.
So for what I did, and I love what both presenters have said, I think that's fantastic. I'm going to go back a little bit on content curation. And for me, it was really changing my own mindset. And I had a hard time with this one at first. So I love having the content release on a weekly basis. I want people to stay consistent with what they're doing and making sure, okay, for week 1, this is your assignment. For week 2, this is what your assignment is. I came to a realization last year, if my students are taking a course asynchronously, they probably are doing it because there's something going on in their lives that require them to do this. So what I've done, and I've gotten great feedback about it, but it really, it took my mindset to have to change. I release all content at the beginning of the semester. So if they need to work ahead, they're able to work ahead. They're able to see what's coming up down the pike. They're able to see what I'm expecting of them. And students have given me some really positive feedback about it. They said, I had one student that was going to be gone for about a week for a family wedding, and he messaged me saying, thank you so much for doing that, because I was able to work ahead in your class and now I'm not stressing out while I'm gone. And I really genuinely appreciated that. And he felt that he had a connection with me as the online instructor because of that. And when I was learning how to teach online, the whole learning process was you don't release your content early. And it took me a really long time to break that. But the fact that I broke it, I'm quite happy with, and I'm going to continue doing this.
One thing that I do is I take advantage of the announcements portion that I'm able to use, and keep engaged with them, even in a fun way. Like, oh my goodness, you survived whatever the assignment that might have been a little tougher. Now let's go on to this, or happy Tuesday, or just engaging little things that humanize me, so that they don't think I'm the big bad scary professor that they can't reach out to and talk to. So I always want to make sure that I put a little fun, and I use that, just something that doesn't affect the curriculum per se, but it just shows a little of my personality and gives them the opportunity to laugh and have fun and know me a little better.
That's great. Thank you. Those were some awesome suggestions there. Let's move on to talking about engagement. And I want to ask Lois this question first. What are some unexpected tools or techniques that have helped you build real connections online?
So I came up with a while ago in one of my classes, adding it. I know discussion boards are the bane of everybody's existence, but what I did was create a student cafe. It has no points, no nothing. It's all about the student. It's a place where they can ask me questions, where they can engage each other. They can, if somebody says, oh, we have a lot of, I'm in Tennessee, and we have a lot of students from Texas. So when they see that, oh, there's some people from Texas, let me talk to them. They can go offline, not in anywhere where they're going to put it on a space nobody else needs to read, but they can go to the student cafe and have a nice discussion with each other, and then take it offline if they want to. But I always encourage them to get to know their fellow students, because these are people that will become your lifelong friends, as we all know.
Anybody else have?
I can second that. So I can second that. So Yellow Dig for me has been really that way of building the connection with students. They're able to really be themselves when they're communicating. And that's my goal as the instructor, is to just let them feel comfortable in their own skin talking about these topics. But another thing that I do at the beginning of the term, I do a video-based, I don't want to call it a lecture, but it's more of an introduction of myself. And it's silly things. I'm talking about my dog. I'm talking about when my husband and I got married. We had pictures taken on the campus that I teach at. So I showed them the picture of that, or just little things that just personalize me. And then I say to them, number one, I will never not want to see pictures of your pets. So feel free to show me those, or show me just whatever you want. And we have a little tag in Yellow Dig that's just the general conversation. And it's come to the point now where in the current class that I'm teaching, someone asked me, can you just make a pets tag so we can just share silly photos and videos of our animals with each other? And they're having a great time. I had another student that went to a pumpkin patch. And since I taught the Wizard of Oz, he said, oh, there's Wizard of Oz pumpkins at this pumpkin patch, and I had to take a picture to show you. Is it okay if I post that on Yellow Dig to show the rest of the class? Well, of course it's okay. So just anything where you're trying to humanize it. But I feel if you're human first in front of them, and you're being as authentic as you can be, and I'll be the first to make fun of myself. So if they're willing to just jump in and be authentic along with me, we have a really great time with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think kudos and ditto to what you're saying, Stephanie. One of the things that we created, which was similar to Yellow Dig, which I'm so upset that Yellow Dig's colors isn't yellow, it's blue, but that's just random. But that's just the marketer in me. But one of the things that I love is we use Facebook groups. And we had a massive Facebook group. Everyone who ever graduated from the class was a part of this group, and allowed us to create multimodal content for engagement. And so we could create audio content, we can create video content, and if you can engage with them directly in the platforms they're already on, whether I had a teacher account specifically on Facebook, if you want to have a teacher account for Instagram and really connect with them, it really brings you outside of the four walls of the school, and it helps you to feel more human when they connect you outside. And to this day, I see students who I've taught before, they remember my class and they get excited about it because of the connection they felt as a result of how many ways that we had different touch points outside of the classroom with them, but using different medium sources to do that.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else have anything they want to share on this? Okay. Well, Stephanie, I love that you had wedding pictures taken on campus. Like, that's awesome. That's loyalty right there.
It was before they even hired me full time. I was just an adjunct at that point. So.
Okay. It was part of your application process then.
I like that.
Yes. All right, I want to continue on this theme, and I'll open this up to anyone who wants to answer first. How do you personalize feedback and create a sense of
I'll jump in with a short version. I always make sure I use their name And then I use the sandwich approach so that I always say something that they did well. Then I put in, maybe you should consider this next time, or you can even write a sample. I write samples all the time of suggested ways of saying something when they've just barely kind of missed the mark. They're almost there, but not quite. I try to give them an example so that they have something, so they're not wondering like, well, what did she mean? I don't understand. I do give pretty comprehensive feedback, so there shouldn't be questions, but oftentimes students don't think the same way I think they're going to think when I put my feedback. So I make sure that I give them examples, I personalize it, sandwich it, and I always end on a high note, because you don't want to destroy their enthusiasm for what they're doing. You want to lift them up and build them and make them feel secure in trying. Failure is just a stepping stone to success. They should feel free to fail with me, because it's not really failure. I hate that word. I wish we could come up with something else, because it's a good thing to fail. It's because you're trying. You're trying to be successful. You're trying to do something well. So it's really a good way to grow. And we grow through hard times. So we grow the most when we fail, because we realize what's not working. So we can leave that behind and go and move forward and change it up to make it more successful. So in the feedback, I try to guide them along that pathway to help them become more successful in their next attempt.
I love that. I echo that, Lois. I think, to continue what you're saying, I believe feedback should never be a surprise for a student. And I believe there are so many ways and so many tools we use as digital educators for feedback, from your comments on your discussion posts to the way you connect in your, reviewing assignments. One of my favorite ways to leave feedback is through using tools like Loom and Video Ask or VidAsk, right? And then Vidyard as well. I like specifically creating videos where I'm able to show them exactly what happened. I found it works out better for them as well too, when I bring up their assignment, or if I'm able to bring up a report or something they did and zoom into it and show them some things they could have done better. It makes it so much easier for them to actually use that, review that, understand what's happening behind the scenes, and know what things they could have done and corrected. And it makes it a lot more human for them and connected for them as well, because they don't feel like I'm Zordon from Power Rangers, just from a white box, just telling them what to do, So yeah.
I love that. I actually was going to talk about giving audio or video feedback, but on the flip side, I actually found that my students weren't paying attention to it. They didn't want to download the audio. They didn't want to download the video. And I'm at the point now where I spend a lot of time just writing the feedback. And I always try to find, like Lois was saying, something positive to say. So I think you did a great job on your first attempt at this, and here's how we can make it better.
Mhm.
And just trying to be as positive and upbeat as possible when delivering the feedback, even if it's not the best feedback that I want to give. If it's negative feedback where a student completely missed the mark, I'm going to find something positive in that work, even if it kills me. I just want them to feel happy about coming to my class. I also have a rule. Students can meet with me. My office hours are posted, but I also recognize that sometimes students just can't meet me during my office hours. They might have work, they might have another class. So I say to them, if that doesn't work, let me know. If I have to come on Zoom at 11 o'clock at night because that's the only time that you can meet with me, then so be it. I'm here to help you, and I want you to feel comfortable about being in my class. If we're doing something like in one of my classes, we're currently doing a podcast project. They're able to invite me in as a collaborator on the platform I have them using. Invite me in. Let me see what's going on. I'm not just, I guess, the Wizard of Oz in my own little corner, just doing my own thing. I'm a partner in this with you, and I want to see you succeed. And I think the more that we communicate this to the students, the better. And I think as long as we do it with a smile on our face, they know, okay, I can trust them, and it's okay if I goof up because they have my back.
Stephanie, that's a great point you brought up about they weren't looking at the audio or the video, because I had that a lot. I noticed I spent hours putting together all this feedback and they weren't seeing it. They didn't know how to access it or things like that. And I saw somebody wrote in the comments about technology. How do you make sure that students know different technologies. So I think giving them different touch points of how to get that feedback is important. Don't let it be hidden in just the one spot. So like, I'll make sure I have an announcement. Hey, your grades have just been released and you can see feedback here. And maybe there's a video that shows how to view the rubric or how to view what they've just seen. And yes, you could do video and you can do audio feedback. You can also do, at least in Canvas, you can do message students who got above a 90 or between this and this grade. And you can give some little personalized comments on like, excellent, you're in the top of the class right now. You know, keep up the good work. Here are some things where you can keep up the momentum. I particularly liked that you did this, this, and this. Or, hey, you know, you're struggling, but make sure that it is that sandwich approach. And don't worry, because there's so many different opportunities, and kind of show them that you care and that you're have an open space for them. And I think a big part as well with online classes is to really make sure that those rubrics are being built into your LMS. You don't just have this like, oh, I'll grade you based on, like, don't make the students guess. So make sure you're using all those technology tools to the maximum potential, because we have rubrics and you can make them very detailed. And so the student isn't surprised about what grade they're getting. They can go in and see, well, here's the exact rubric that was given to me. And make sure the rubric isn't seen after the fact, right? Make it in before they're submitting. Here's this rubric. And, you know, maybe a couple days before the assignment is being submitted, remind the students that that rubric is available and that they should go in and check against the rubric. And they could still resubmit until this date, you know, if they need to make any changes, because that's what they're going to be graded on.
Well, we had a couple of comments in the chat that I wanted to share when I talked about failure, when you were talking about that. And Alana said, fail equals first attempt in learning. And Ursula said, fail, it's a signal, not of failure, but of opportunity. So I liked.
Amen.
So
those are good.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing. Those were great engagement tools there. Let's move on to talking about challenges and solutions. So let's start, Ramon, with you and with this one. What's one mistake you made early on in virtual teaching that you've since overcome?
One of the biggest mistakes I made, I think that I alluded to this earlier, was thinking that I was the star and that I am the teacher and I have all the answers and I have to be the one that gives you all the information. And I realized most people don't learn that way, especially the students. I've worked with a lot of underserved communities and a lot of students from backgrounds where they was their first time in college. This was their first time. They were adults. They didn't make it through school. They didn't do well. And so I had to kind of repackage what education looked like for them and not give them a lecture, but really give them an experience. And so for me, I really shifted the way I saw teaching and instruction. And I referred to myself as a guide more than I did a teacher or an instructor. And I really decided to transform my classroom into an experience that was more event managed, or like an event versus just a lecture or a classroom you come to. And I think if you treat every class like an event and you create it like an experience, almost like a performance in a way, it really changes how students perceive the experience, but it helps to redevelop their mind when it comes to what it's going to be. I've had a number of students come to me and say, man, this is going to be horrible. I'm going to be on this, this Zoom all day, and I'm going to be frustrated, and I don't know if I'm going to do this and how I'm going to like this. And then when they're done, it's like, oh my gosh, this hour went by so fast. Or man, I've taught classes that were 5 hours at a time. And so and this was in the evening time. So from like 5 to 10:30 p.m., I had to be online that entire time and keep them engaged the entire time. And that is one of the things that I had to do, was to really reframe what we were doing at the time to make it more engaging for them.
Anybody?
I think
I love that. I think that was fantastic. I can just say that one of the mistakes that I made early on was I used to think that everybody that was taking an online class had the same level of digital proficiency. I figured if you're taking an online class, you know what to do online, and I don't need to worry about that. And I quickly realized that's not the way it works. And now what I do is I spend a lot of time creating my own video-based tutorials for whatever I'm trying to have them use. So for example, for Yellow Dig, I created my own tutorial that I upload to Canvas. And I say to them, I'm going to leave this up the entire time of the class, and you could refer back to that if you get stuck. But here's some tutorials for you, so this way you understand the new technology that I'm presenting to you. I also created, it's kind of going along the lines of what Lois had for the cafe option, but it's more like a tech support. Let's all support each other in terms of tech cafe. I have a little discussion board, and I hate calling it that, but that's what it is, on Canvas, where students can help each other with technical difficulties, because sometimes I might not see that in enough of time, and a student might be panicking, and they might not be emailing me or pinging me or whatever needs to be done, but they might feel comfortable getting peer-to-peer support, so they actually can work with each other on that. I also make sure that I provide Canvas's 24-hour hotline, Yellow Dig's hotline, Penn State Scranton's hotline, so any hotlines that they might need in case there's any technical difficulties. But I realized not so much assuming, because when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me, we know this, but really making sure that I'm helping to guide the ship the way that it needs to be guided. And by providing these tutorials, my students feel a lot more comfortable with the technology, and there's not so much of, I don't know what to do at this point. And it feels a lot better since I've been doing that. And that was a mistake I made 10 years ago. And now just seeing where I was and where I am, it's like two completely different worlds in terms of teaching.
Yeah, that's so important. I do something similar like the water cooler, but I give them either a Discord or a GroupMe, so they have their informal space. They can ask each other, hey, why isn't this working? And they usually help each other out. But I also want to stress to them the importance of digital literacy and figuring things out on your own. So I try to avoid being their tech support, because they can contact Stukent if they have a problem with Stukent, or they can contact Canvas if they have a problem with Canvas. And I show a link to, like, here, are you having technical problems? Go to this page. And then there I have all the links on who they can contact. And I can also put in little templates on like emails. So like I show them, how do you contact tech support? Here's a professional way. Like, you need to make sure you give a screenshot. Do you not know how to take a screenshot? Here's a link on how to do that, you know? Or do you not know what kind of details they're going to need for you to be able to troubleshoot? And I stress as well the importance of why I'm making them do this. Like, I'm not being lazy. It's really because I want you to learn how to, because when you step away from this class, you know, part of this is you learning critical thinking and the proficiency to be able to problem solve, and you know, when something isn't going wrong. And that's part of taking an online class as well, is you're becoming more digitally savvy, and I expect you to go out actually becoming, you know, capable of doing that.
I agree with both of you. I have taught at different types of schools where like Raymond, I taught at a school where they were all adults that are from communities that are underserved, that are not good technologically. And I've taught at universities that the students probably know more than I do on tech. But I try to combine the two of you. I give all of the tech information and put it there, and then say, if you really are not getting this, reach out to me and see what I can do for you. So I kind of I morph the two. And some of my students are so timid, they don't want to call tech support because they're so embarrassed that they can't do it. So we go through it a little bit quickly. If I can't figure it out, they can. I've actually been in a live chat where a student asked a question, and before I could even answer, another student jumped in and said, hey, you do it this way. I loved that, because they do support each other. So if they have the opportunity to do that, I think that's excellent.
That's great. Thanks for sharing those experiences of how you guys learned. I want to move to, we had a category called Future Forward, and kind of talking about things looking forward. And I'd like to give Stephanie the chance to answer this one first. And the question is, how can professors future-proof their teaching for for digital first students or digital first audience?
Okay, I absolutely love this question. So one of my main research interests is artificial intelligence and virtual reality. And I've been spending a lot of time this semester integrating the two of them into my classes to varying effects. It's been a lot of fun and just really an exciting learning experience for the students and myself. But with all of that said, yes, students need to know this new technology, because if we don't teach it, we are going to be doing a disservice to them when they get into the workforce. However, with that said, there's no substitute for human creativity, and we as professors need to keep that in mind. I feel that we need to keep developing our own teaching styles that focus on our humanity and that focus on building genuine connection with our students. And we need to implement the new digital technologies not as a substitute for what we're doing, because especially teaching online, we could get away with using so much AI to make our lives a lot easier. But we're cheating the students and we're cheating ourselves as professors if we do that. We can use it to enhance what we're doing, but not to substitute what we're doing. And we also need to be confident enough to learn these new skills so this way we could share them with our students. I've heard many peers say, I'm not learning AI. I don't want to have anything to do with it. But you're doing yourself a disservice because it's the way of the future, and you're doing your students a disservice because there very well may be a need for them to know this in their new workplace that you didn't teach them, and it's not going to be helpful. So just use new technology, but remember there's no substitute for humanity in the process.
I've been doing a pilot test this semester where I'm building a GPT agent through our school. They've offered us on Microsoft Copilot, we can build an actual agent and put it in our class. So that's been really fun to start experimenting. I'll be deploying it next semester. I'm still in the building stage. But what I'm trying to do is make the GPT act like a coach through one major assignment that I have. And one major assignment was business communication, where they practice a PowerPoint karaoke exercise. So if you don't know what PowerPoint karaoke, it's like you see slides you've never seen before and you have to present them. And so how do you figure out how to do that? And I've developed this entire like structure and framework, and it's really long-winded and complicated. And normally I would just give students a worksheet. But instead of a worksheet, I'm building the agent to do one question at a time of the worksheet. So we'll ask the student like, okay, look at this slide right now and what are you doing? And it will ask them, and then the student is going to answer back, and it will give custom feedback based on their response and then answer back. And it'll go back and forth as if I was the person giving them custom feedback. And so I'm really excited about these, opportunities where we could build not just something where the student is, copy pasting answers, but actually learning. So it's not, instead of thinking about product, we're grading them on an exam or an essay, think more about process and what are they learning and what are the kind of interactions and touch points students are going through.
I agree. I've used in several of my courses. Right now, I teach cross-cultural communication, and for an assignment, Lipscomb has been stellar about bringing in and adopting AI for our students and for faculty and staff. So we have access to something called Boodlebot that is a house, like it's a house where you've got ChatGPT, Claude, you've got a lot of different AI software that's all together in one. And so we created a bot that my students who were looking at for their culture, what their background was, the bot would ask them, what country do you want to know about? Oh, you want to know about this country? Well, this country, and it gives it information. So I tested it. I'm Norwegian, and I speak Norwegian and all of that. So I was a good test for the bot to make sure it was working. And it literally gave me the foods I ate when I grew up. It gave me it, and then it started speaking to me in Norwegian. And it was a wonderfully fun exercise. And the response to that exercise was fabulous with my students, because they got to learn about a different country and it interacted with them and asked them questions. What do you know? Do you speak the language? Have you ever tasted any of the foods? Would you like to know what you could try? And it was just so interactive. I've also used it. I teach PR writing, and it's very difficult sometimes to create your own bio. But when you use an AI tool, you can put in some information and say, please make me a professional corporate bio, and it will do it. And then you humanize it and tweak it at the end. So it gives you a good starting point. And then I also use it as a thought partner, because I want that human touch. So I say, when you're stuck, say, I'm stuck. I always say, please add the caveat, do not write this for me. So it makes sure that it's not spitting back information and writing things for them. But I've had very great success incorporating and teaching it as a tool, because as Stephanie said, we are doing them a disservice if we don't give them the skills they will need when they get out of the university and have graduated and are working. The graphing calculator hit the same kind of like, oh my God, that's cheating, when it first came out, and now it's standard. So I think that with every new tool, we have the panic mode of what is this going to do? How is it going to disrupt everything that I know? But if you're an early adapter and you're willing to embrace change, then you can be successful in the long run.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for sharing that. What I'd like to do right now is I'd like to hop over and answer some of the questions that have been in the chat today during our session. So first thing I'd like to ask is if you all could drop your LinkedIn contact in the chat. I think that people would love to connect with you, and that would be great. One of the questions is, do you have available resources that people can refer to for best practices in virtual or asynchronous classes?
I'm so sorry. I need that question repeated because I was putting my LinkedIn profile in.
Sorry about that. So the question is, do you have any available resources or recommendations that instructors could refer to for best practices in teaching virtually or asynchronously?
I don't necessarily have anything written out, but I'm certainly not opposed to somebody reaching out to me if they would like to discuss what works, what doesn't work. In my experience, I've been teaching since 2009. So, I have some experience with pitfalls and things that don't work, as well as things that do. So I'm happy to help anybody.
I would say for me, one of the tools I like to look at are platforms that actually do a lot of the technology that does a lot of the things we're talking about. So I know like platforms like Kajabi, Teachable, Mentimeter, a lot of these places that use a lot of these tools, they have insights and reports and studies. And I've gained a lot of content from their research and their reports on student engagement, on clarity engagement. And so typically your tool, similar to the tool you're on right now, they have a ton of resources available for instruction and ways to increase engagement. And I like being able to find those tools to really connect more and go deeper.
I think also saying yes to the opportunities you have around campus. Really, like there's so many faculty development workshops and all these things. And that's usually how I found about every single tool that I tell you about. Like, oh, there's a talk about H5P. There's an innovation on Design Plus tools. And I say, yes, I'll show up. And then I learn about this new tool. And then all of a sudden, hey, I can use that in my class. So I think just being curious and like making sure that you're listening to, because I'm sure your school is offering lots of activities and places to connect. So don't just hide out in your bunker, get out there and, meet other faculty and attend these events. And I think that's where, when you say yes, you start seeing all these opportunities and different tools. Like I did ACUE course, ACUE, and that was another one where we learn about teaching in person and online. They have lots of modules, and I found that helpful as well. Yeah.
Just really quickly, I forgot. I have a list of 200 tools that I made available for instructors as well. If you shoot me an email, I have a whole document with like 200 plus engagement interactive tools. Some are AI based, some are technology based, but I created it for a workshop that I did for instructors, and it has so many tools on there. It categorizes them. It gives you examples of how to use them. I can send it to you as well too.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that. One of the other questions that was addressed a little bit in the chat is suggestions for mega sections, like 140 plus students for an asynchronous online course. Is there anything that you would like to say to that or expand upon maybe a response that you already wrote?
I mean, as far as giving feedback, I think it comes to having some pre-built templates. You know, you won't be able to say, hi, Heather, hi, Jackie, hi, this person. You won't really be able to always personalize unless you have those. Some of them let you actually put in little brackets and student name, but you won't have the capability to always give that personalized feedback. So kind of grouping the students based on some themes that you see, like, oh, they missed this first assignment, or they were scored in this percentile, and just saving a bunch of preloaded templates that you can customize speeds up the process for that personalization. So I've used that in the past, and also using the message students who function.
Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
No, I agree. The templates help make grading a little easier, because that can take quite some time. And if you notice in courses that you repeatedly teach, there's themes of what happens and what they do consistently. So again, having that pre-set blurb, if you will, that you can put in and pull from those and put them together, that saves a lot of time. And then you can add the little specifics, and then you can sandwich it in between. But it's how you frame your responses that'll help the most.
Great. Well, I really want to thank each of you for joining us today, especially Lois, Heather, Stephanie, and Ramon. Thank you so much for being a part of this panel discussion today. And thank you for everyone for watching from home. Now, don't forget to check out any of our upcoming events that we have. There's a link here on the screen that will show you those. And at any time, you can request free instructor access like we offered that earlier today. So thank you so much for joining us. Everyone, have a wonderful weekend, and we look forward to seeing you soon at another event. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.